And good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today on behalf of Texthelp for today's webinar. Today we'll be focusing, of course, on something very specific, and we will be focusing on remote learning with Texthelp tools. We will have a focus on Google Classroom, but we will be showing you how each of the features and products that we'll go through will translate into other tools as well. And I think at the very outset, I first of all want to thank you very much indeed for giving up your time today in, of course, a week that has been difficult for all of us, I'm sure, and has turned our view of education almost upside down, and certainly how we approach things inside and outside of the classroom. As we approach the end of the week, I hope what we're going to go through today can give you some ideas in and around technology with Texthelp tools that you can take going forward in the days and weeks that lie ahead for this massive shift that we're now experiencing. So thank you once again. We are today using Gotowebinar for our presentation. So let me just jump into Gotowebinar. Okay, whoa, here we go. So we're using Gotowebinar. If you haven't used it before, you may be new to webinars, you will have seen a panel just on the right-hand side of your screen. Your microphones will be muted throughout this. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of people on this webinar today. So what I'm just going to ask is, there is a questions button in that little panel, and you can just click on the little drop down in the questions box and type any questions that you may want to give. Depending on the volume of those questions, we may have time at the end to answer those directly live on the webinar. If not, we will follow that up with an email after today and try and endeavour to answer as many of those as we possibly can. Lots and lots of questions coming in for us at Texthelp and for everybody in teaching and learning at this point, but we'll do our absolute best to get there. So in terms of what we're going to look at today, my name is Patrick. I am an Edtech Strategist here at Texthelp. That's the closest representation of me that you're going to see today. We've kept the video off just to reduce our bandwidth. And I suppose my job has certainly changed, as yours have done over the last few weeks. So I'm fast becoming a remote learning strategist in this regard. I'm just coming up to my home office here, of course, working from home like all of you. I got stopped in the way by my teacher wife, who asked me how exactly she should best record using Screencastify to share a physics problem out through Google Classroom. As I then passed through the kitchen, I was asked by my daughter what the best way would be to complete a PDF worksheet that her teacher had provided to her via Google Classroom as well. So my job, like all of your jobs, is certainly changing fast, and it's very close to home. Please feel free to reach out to me after today, edtech@texthelp.com, or a quick follow on Twitter would be great, at th_Patrick. I'll be happy to help you with anything you need. My day-to-day job at Texthelp is to focus on teaching and learning, and that's very much what we want to go through today. Despite the situation we're in, we know that learning and teaching has to move on, and so we want to take the tools that we've maybe talked about in a traditional classroom setting and show you exactly how those may work outside of the classroom. And there are a couple of core tools that you may or may not be familiar with from Texthelp. And I'm going to just talk very briefly about four. What we're going to focus the majority of this webinar on is actively looking and walking through each of the products and how they can work for you in remote learning, and some quick win strategies within that. But I think it's useful to frame this in terms of what our products do now, and then we'll be able to translate that into remote learning. So one of the products we're going to look at, Tactile Pdf Reader, that will give us accessible and actionable PDFs. No imagination needed there as to how that might work in a remote learning scenario. Digital maths with EquatIO. How do we start to produce digital maths when the demands on resources have moved literally overnight to a digital platform? And how then do we even support paper-based maths for assessment? So we can see that with EquatIO. Then WriQ, that gives us the ability to assess writing and track writing progress when students do it digitally, but also to help motivate students as well. And then lastly, and certainly not least, is of course Read&Write, the product that we're incredibly well known for around the world. 25 million users, has been supporting reading, writing and comprehension for many years now, and students get so much of a wide range of uses out of Read&Write. And it's important, as we mentioned, Read&Write, to remember as we navigate through the remote learning journey, that we do have students of individual needs there as well. Obviously, just because we're not in our classrooms anymore, we now need to be able to give them the tools that can help them at home as well, and Read&Write can of course do that. So those are the 4 tools that we'll be working on: EquatIO, Textile Pdf Reader, Read&Write, and the greatest product from Texthelp is of course WriQ there. Now, just in terms of follow through after today, there's 2 things to bear in mind in terms of where you can get extra resources, and I'll pop these up just at the end of today's session. But you go directly to our landing page, text.help/remote learning. So that's remote-learning. And there you'll find access to some video material and a form to complete if you need additional help from us. You can also feel free to directly email the entire education team, of course, all working at home, but working together at home, education@texthelp.com. And they'll be more than happy to get you the products that you need, get licenses enabled, and get you up and running with all of the products that you're going to see today. So throughout the school closure term, we are here to support you in whatever way you need. If that's with products, if that's with videos for your students or training for your teachers, at Textile, we're committed to delivering everything we can do to help you guys through this difficult time as we go. So let's think about remote learning, and let's think about some of the areas of challenge that we may be facing. So I've put 6 on your screen right now. And what I'm going to do as we go through the very sort of practical use of our tools, we're going to align each of those usage to these 6 different areas. So some of the challenges we have as we remote learn: we need to be able to create digital content or repurpose content really quickly. So we need creation. We need assignment. So we need the ability to take the content we've created, get it out to our students, and of course many of you are doing that through Google Classroom and things like Microsoft Teams, but we need to be able to do that quickly, and we need to be able to do it easily. We need completion. So if we're at a point where we're providing content to our students, how do we get our students to complete that? Now, if you're using, say, something like Google Forms, that's a pretty simple, straightforward process. They can complete the form, you'll see the answers. But what if you're producing a PDF worksheet? What if you're producing any content that you're asking them to perhaps produce a narrow reading piece on? So any content that we need to have completed, how do we address that? Next is assessment. So we'll think of assessment in 2 different ways. How do we provide assessment in a traditional marked up sense? How do we provide opportunities for peer assessment and also for self-assessment? And we need to have all of those things taken into consideration when we start to create our resources and our activities through remote learning. Next, and just as importantly, is of course feedback. Is there ways and mechanisms with technology tools that allow us to provide effective feedback with clarity that can really help support learning? How do we do that with technology? And last, and definitely not least in this list, is motivation. What can we do with technology when we're looking at our students who are studying at home to provide them with motivation? And we'll look very particularly at how we might do that with writing with some technology tools, because the motivation factor is the challenging one. I know with my own daughter, who's 15 years of age, setting a timetable at the start of the week seemed like a really good idea. We're now on day number 4 of school closures here in the UK, and I don't think that timetable, certainly for the morning hours, has been stuck to. I see her progressing with work, but I do see motivation is definitely a challenge in some areas more than others, particularly perhaps with topic areas that she's not engaged in, and I would say that's a fair reflection on most of our students out there. We are going to be taking those 6 areas, and we're going to be looking at those 6 areas at least initially through our integration at Texthelp with Google Classroom. Many teachers, of course, using Google Classroom to create assignments and to create and add rubrics, have the ability to mark and assess feedback and communicate with their students. And for the last, I suppose, 18 months or so, we have always had our family of products integrated as tightly as we possibly can within Classroom to make that workflow easier. And I'm going to take some time just to show you how that's done. And of course, despite the fact that we are looking at very closely at Google Classroom and we'll be focusing on integration, don't forget that what we're providing with Textile is the means to create content and generate content, amend content, complete content on many different platforms. So whilst we're focusing on Classroom for this webinar today, of course, those tools of ours that simply generate links to resources, that can be posted through Microsoft Teams, it can be posted through your LMS, or of course, it can just be sent out directly on email. We're looking at web strategies here, strategies that can enable remote learning by simply having a student complete or create an activity within their web browser. So how they get that link is entirely flexible and up to the individual platform that you actually use. And one last sort of, I suppose, techie thing before we go and start to move on to the core products is remember from a Texthelp perspective that we've got many ways that we can get the technology to students. We do have the ability for our schools to provide students with the ability to download directly from our website, log in and register with all of our tools. So we can provide MSI files, so if they're Windows users, they can download that. If they're a Chrome user, they can download an extension. There's the capability to log or pop directly into a LMS. For Mac users, there's a straightforward DMG file, and for iPad, there is, of course, the App Store. There are more advanced ways of rollout and deployment, but the important thing here is that we know that the things we're looking at and the tools we're looking at are by and large available on the majority of all platforms. And if there's any differences to that, I'll take you through that as we explore each individual product here today. But the important thing is students have the ability to download all of this software. So if you're in touch with us and we get you enabled for any or all of our products, students can download straight away and can get started with a bank of resources at their disposal to get them moving and get them going forward. So cross-platform, really important, consistent experience for student. Let's not penalize students for the particular device they may or may not have. As I said previously, Google Classroom is a particular focus of the session today, and there really is 5 core products that we're going to run through. Okay, so there are 5 here that are going to encompass all areas of the curriculum and at multiple levels. So we'll look at ways that we can use the products that can stretch from primary level all the way through to higher ed. The same tools with a consistent experience can be used at home for the widest range of students. So let's just have a look at the core areas that we're going to look at before we jump into the products. So read and write, literacy and language support and assignments for Google Classroom. Okay, so we'll provide read and write directly when a student is accessing or conducting work within an assignment that you've set. Number 2 for WriQ, integrated assessment of writing. Within the classroom environment, we'll be able to provide a way that allows teachers to assess writing right in the classroom window, right within workflow. That's useful because it's going to speed up time and it's going to provide very effective feedback to our students easily. Number 3, PDF resource creation. Creation of PDF resources, editing and amending of PDF resources, the ability to assign those, the ability for a student to complete those. And if you think about how we can utilize PDFs, it also means that as a teacher and an educator, you can also use the exact same tool your students are using to mark those and open those PDFs directly within the Google Classroom window. So we'll show you all this in action. Next, we're going to give you a tool called Fluency Tutor that can help students practice reading aloud. We can assign passages, create passages, or let students create their own passages. They can record themselves reading and they can return it in one button press right back to you for you to score and provide simple or rich feedback on. And we've built in comprehension tools to that as well. So there's something that's great for improving and motivating reading. And last, EquatIO maths resource creation. So we're going to see how can we create a maths resource very quickly as a question, how can we assign it through Google Classroom, and how then can we utilize those exact same tools to provide the ability to quickly create Google Forms, to create Google Forms with rich maths content. And then also if we, for example, send out a maths worksheet that's a PDF, how do we have students complete that with maths? How do we let them do that with accurate maths? So we'll see that with EquatIO. So literacy and language, assessment of writing, PDF manipulation, practice reading aloud and comprehension, creation and distribution of maths resources. 5 key areas that we need to be addressing. And if you think back to the 6 areas that we talked about earlier on, creation, assignment, motivation, feedback, assessment, we're covering all of those areas within the tools. So as we move forward, I'm just going to get out of this screen in a little second here, and we're going to just jump right into a web browser. And we're going to see a couple of things that you see on screen here. We're going to see how we create assignments. How do we inbuild accessibility as we go through? How do we automate this marking? So we'll see it directly within these products. So I'm just going to escape here and come out of this presentation. You should have everything, I hope, still on screen. So that's us out of there. So the first product I'm going to go to is this one here, which is EquatIO. So remember, that's our maths tool. And EquatIO is a very feature-rich tool. It's been used for almost 3 years now to help teachers create maths and let students input maths into digital documents. How uniquely does that fit with the current challenges we face? But I'm only going to show you one very specific feature of this. And this is a feature called EquatIO Math Space. So once you have your license for EquatIO, so you've contacted us, education@texthelp.com, your domain is up and running for your school, you now have access to EquatIO. All you've got to do is simply visit equatio.texthelp.com, and that will bring you to what is the Math Space screen. What you're actually seeing on the screen here is a number of different resources that I have created previously and have shared with my students. So for example, here's a Pi Day activity that was done for Pi Day a little while back. Here's a Finding the Volume worksheet, and I'm going to show you from scratch how we create one of these, how we share it, and how we can then assess it in an overall workflow really easily with Google Classroom. So one thing to note, I as a teacher don't have to create all of these by myself. If I'm in a department, I can create a resource and I can easily share it with a colleague in that department, so he or she will have it directly within their MathSpace window. So think of this as an area that I can use to create tasks and question sheets for my students really easily. Okay, so let's see how we do that. So all I'm going to do is jump into new space at this point. Now, if it's your first time use it, it may well ask you to log in. For me, I've already logged in ahead of today, so it's easy for me to do this. I just get a blank space at this point in time. I just want to ask my students a very simple question. So I've got access to all of these tools along the bottom, so I can start typing maths really easily. I can insert a graph, I can handwrite on screen, I could just dictate maths if I want. I can photograph handwritten maths from a file block. But I'm going to first of all use the shapes here. So this gives me a bank of about 200 different shapes that I can include directly in my resource. So let's take something here. So sphere, my favorite. So I want a sphere because I want to ask a question about a sphere. So I can very easily draw a sphere. I have freehand drawing. So I can start, oh, that's a very bad freehand drawing. So I can start to highlight exactly what I want my students to look at here, okay? So I'm actually using a mouse for this rather than a stylus, hence the shape of what you're seeing on screen. But I can start to label up the shape. I can change the color, obviously, the size very easily. Now I just want to ask them a question. So I'm going to say, calculate the volume of this shape. Okay, now that's simple typing at this point. Now I can press enter, I can move on to the next line, but actually what I want to do for this class is give them the actual formula for volume. Maybe I haven't taught it at this point in time. So I'm going to use prediction and I'm going to key in volume of a sphere. Okay, so all I've had to do is start typing the first few letters V, VOL, and it'll give me all the options. I now have that correct maths in there. Okay, I'm going to have to give them the capability here at this point in time to highlight what the diameter is, because that's the only information they need. So I'll put the text in. I'm going to say D equals 5 centimeters. That's the only thing I want to give them. D equals 5 centimeters. Okay, and I'm going to insert that maths in. Now I can change the size of this font. I can do all sorts of things like you just would do in a normal Word document or Google Doc. I'm going to give this a name. So I'm going to go sort my sphere. Okay, so all we're going to do is save that. Now, so I've created a question I've done it really easily, really fast. I could create multiple questions within this one math space. I could create it as one simple question or as a practice question to show some working out of a maths problem. But now all I need to do is go up to this button in the top right hand side, press the share button, and now what I can do is I can say I can make a copy for each person. If you're already doing this in Google Classroom, you'll be aware this will create a copy of this question for each individual student and expect them to complete it and fill in a response. I'm going to hit continue. Okay, it's created my link. Now I could, as I said previously, just share that via email or any LMS or Microsoft Teams, but I'm going to share it with Google Classroom at this point. So I'm just going to hit the Classroom button, and then what we get straight away is access to the standard Google Classroom interface. I'm going to choose my class. I'm going to go down to Maths. I'm going to choose an action. I'm going to, at this case, create an assignment, and I'm going to press go. Okay. Now, this gives me again access to my standard window. I could fill in instructions here exactly as I would do Google Classroom. I could set my due date. I could set the number of points. So on this, I only want 10 points. And on this occasion, I'm just going to uncheck it and I'm going to send it directly just to me as my student account. Okay, and I'm just going to assign it. So let's think about what I've done here. I've been able to create a resource fast and easily, digital maths. I have posted it directly to my Google Classroom. And now as a student, I'm able to receive that, but receive that with a slight difference. So let's see if we can go back to my home account here. And I'm going to go to my classes and let's see if I've got that yet. So this is my maths class. So this is my student facing class. Turning on my classroom, let's see. There we go. So there's my new assignment that's been posted directly from EquatIO. I'm going to open it. And all I'm going to do is click on my math space. This is the math space. Remember, we created easier. Okay, it's going to log me in. So this is me as a student. This is what I've received, and my button is different. So if I want, I can easily start to type out pi r cubed. Okay. Okay, so I can do pi. Okay, so I could type in whatever maths I want. I'll insert that maths directly into the screen. Obviously, I would be putting in a little bit more maths than just a simple pi symbol. But if I want now, I can press this button. And that's going to come back right to my teacher. So I've completed my question and I've sent it right back to the teacher. Now let's take a look at how that actually looks. If I jump down here and I go back to my EquatIO math space, okay, so straight away, I'll just refresh the screen here. Okay. On this, I will be able to see exactly who has returned the maths to me. So I can see here in assignments, anything that I have recently sent out and who's returned it. So we'll see here straight away, one student has returned this to me. If I click into my assignments, I get access and I can see that Patrick McGrath, my home account, has returned it. And if I were to click into this again, it's going to open the math space that Patrick returned. You'll see the pi is there. I can use all of these tools to correct this. I can use a very simple tool here. If I want, I can just literally mark this. Okay, so I'll go freehand drawing and I can give it a mark. And all I want to do is press this button. And Patrick now has a notification that I have marked his piece of work and he has that marking and annotation back with him. So it's a really, really, really quick workflow within EquatIO MathSpace. So it's going to give us a way to create resources, to assign resources, to assess resources, and provide feedback really easily. And the beauty of it is we can, with our colleagues, share an awful lot of these resources through MathSpace. And all we need to do is open the MathSpace, copy the link and send that to our colleague. EquatIO will automatically recognize that. So we can create a bank of resources fast. So that's one way we can do that. But the other thing we can do with EquatIO, outside of this MathSpace, this workflow, this ability to send out and assign content, is to perhaps use Google Forms. So lots of you may well be using Google Forms as a quick mode of assessment here. So this is me creating a form at this point in time. I've called it a quick quadratic quiz. I appreciate that it's not just quadratics on the page here, but Think about how we might have created this before, how difficult it is to get quality maths content into a form. The reality is here that now what we've got is the ability, when we are creating a form, to simply press insert maths. Okay, so we're going to press insert maths right here, and the EquatIO button will come up. Okay, so we now have access to all these tools. So for example, I want to give my students the quadratic equation. So I just need to go down to the quadratic formula, and I'm going to insert it directly in the form. So equation is going to go away. It's going to figure out what the quadratic formula looks like, and it's going to pop it directly into the Google form. Now what happens then is, if I am a student, after as a maths teacher, I have inserted however many lines of maths I want. And remember, I can include graphs, I can include manipulatives, like I could have put in that math space, which is the sphere and the volume calculation. If I look at it from a preview perspective, what does a student see? A student gets a quality form with accurate maths, which is fully accessible, and it gives me the ability now as a student to answer with EquatIO as well. So if I want to solve 4x squared plus 4x minus 2 using the quadratic formula, I can do that as a student directly here. But I could also click here and create a graph to solve that, okay? And creating a graph really easily. So if I put a graph and I go 4x squared plus 4, and I've actually forgotten what the calculation was, so we'll go with this. It's now plotted my quadratic. I can insert the graph, and you'll see now that I have been able to insert even better content into my forms. So I have the ability to do that within EquatIO. So simply installing EquatIO gives us the ability to create fabulous resources. It gives us the ability to create this math space that we can share with our students and have completed and assigned through Google Classroom, and also gives us this rich set of tools that we can use within Google Forms to create maths-based content within Google Forms and have them back and assigned with us as well. So EquatIO is absolutely a fabulous tool to create maths and assignments in any way possible. There's lots more to EquatIO. I would encourage you to get in touch and get a hold of EquatIO and use it that way. But if you want to create digital maths, assign it to your students, that's definitely the way forward. So we're going to move on now, and we're going to move beyond maths, and we're going to look at an oldie but a goodie, as we would say here, which is of course read and write. We're going to have a look at just a couple of key features of read and write that are very useful in the current climate for remote working. We're going to look at it from an angle of how we give students access to the read and write tool and help them be independent with it when they are at home. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to open Read and Write just by clicking the little Read and Write icon at the top. It's been pre-installed as a Google extension, and remember, this will work on Microsoft Windows as well. This gives me access to this super rich range of tools. I'm only going to pull out just a couple of these at the moment. But let's say, for example, I have pulled up this web page. This web page has lots of distractions on it. Perhaps there's too much about the virus currently, and we want to remove those distractions, or perhaps a student just needs to remove distractions from the page. I have a feature here called Simplify, and by pressing Simplify just on the page here, you'll see that what it's done is stripped out all the distractions straight away. So it's just given me the basic content of that web page, and this could be any web page. I have the ability to jump in and simplify this page. So for example, I can just hit the minus button. It's going to start pulling the images out, but you'll also see that it started to reduce the word content. The context and the meaning of the page will stay the same, but it's made the reading much more narrower, and I can continue to simplify the text on this page to a level that is suitable and understandable for me as a student. So we're giving a student a way to simplify text. But not only that, if we go back up to, let's go to this level here, so just one level down, they've also got the ability to change the contrast of the page here as well. They've got the ability to change the font into a dyslexic font also. Let me just go back to Arial. We've got the ability to increase the font size also. So we can change the font size in any way we want. So a simple web page, we may have assigned this through Google Classroom. They've now got the ability to access it directly on their terms completely. So I'm going to pop back into the web page that we had it before and look at a couple of other things we could do. So for example, if we wanted to read this web page aloud, okay, let's simplify it first. Okay, so simplify the page, and we want to create a practice reading opportunity. We then have the ability through Read and Write directly here to still open it, and we have the ability to go to practice reading aloud. Okay, this gives me the web page that I was looking at with all those rich graphics. It's created a reading opportunity for me, and it's allowed me as a student to simply start recording and send that directly back to my teacher. So I can start recording myself reading aloud and send it back. And we'll look at a tool in a few minutes called Fluency Tutor that does this on a more organized basis, I suppose. But this is really useful for ad hoc work directly from your student. And we've got other things here. Okay, so let's go back to our web page. Okay, and of course, remember, we can do this in Google Docs as well, but we have things like, if we were to look at an example here, we want our students to pull out some key points in the page. Okay, so we've maybe asked them to pull out some key areas in relation to who could be an astronaut, perhaps what the qualities of an astronaut or qualifications are to be, or their flying time. But we can use the highlighters on a web page to do that. So think about research. We've set students a research task. Maybe it's the research in advance of producing a piece of written work. But if I just simply go to the collect highlights button, watch what happens. It allows me as a student to collect all of the highlights that I've put directly on the page. It's collecting the highlights. It's producing a brand new Google Doc for me here, and it will do the same in Windows. It will create then a document with all of the highlights that I've pulled out here. So again, Read and Write is enabling students to complete research tasks really easily. And we've of course got all of the other tools here that we would have available, things like Screenshot Reader to make things more accessible, Dictionary and Picture Dictionary. So please don't forget about the students that may have access to Read and Write on a daily basis and really do need to have this at home as well. And we're more than happy to help you ensure those students have access to that. They can download it, directly online and get access to that. They'll have rich areas, things like dictation tools here also. So I'm just going to pop out of Read and Write for 1 second, and I'm going to jump, a web page for 1 second, and I'm going to jump into let's go to a document here, okay? So of mice and men, we talked about creation of resources earlier, but we also talked about then how do we provide quality feedback. So let's take an example. We have received a piece of work, written work from our student. Perhaps we have just set an assignment through Google Classroom. We've asked for the piece to come back, and now we want to provide some feedback on it. It's a Google Doc, it's a Microsoft Word, whatever the platform happens to be. Within all of those platforms, we have access to a pretty wonderful tool here within Read and Write, and it is called Voice Note. So in Voice Note, we have the ability to highlight a particular passage that a student has or maybe hasn't done well. We simply highlight it, we click Voice Note, we say, well done, Cara, you had a very clear understanding of the relationship between George and Lenny. Really pleased at this work. Okay, so I've recorded feedback for my student at this stage just by speaking into the microphone. And now what I'm going to do is press the insert button. And the insert button is actually going to put that as an audio file, as a recording, directly into the Google document or a Microsoft Word document, and let students be able to listen to it. And because we've shared this document with students, they now have access to the feedback and the precise area in which I was referring to the feedback in. And all I need to do is go in and say, well done, Cara, you had a very, and play that back. And they can, of course, reply with a voice note as well, and they can reply with typed text also. This is also useful for students making notes on their own work. So that's a great way to provide feedback really quickly, really easily. And remember, Read and Write works, and we'll show you how in a second, directly within the Google Classroom window. So all of these tools, if we have set out an assignment, we can use Voice Note directly within the marking window of Google Classroom. And we'll get to that really soon as we go through today. So let's look at another area. And again, this all works with Google Classroom and works directly in Google Classroom. And this is I suppose let's call it a version of Read and Write. It's an add-on to Read and Write, and it's called Texthelp Pdf Reader. And this is a really good tool in the current climate because it's going to allow us to create resources, It's going to allow us to assess resources, to complete resources, and to provide meaningful feedback on resources. And it gives us the ability through a PDF tool. Once you install the extension, and this one's only available in Chrome, you see a little extension up here. Don't need to open that extension at any point. Once we have it set up, we can, as a teacher, simply open a PDF file. Okay, so let's open a PDF file here. Okay, so there's my PDF open. Okay, so this has now opened in the standard Google view. I've just opened this from Google Drive, but I could open it from the web as well. I'll open with, I'll go read and write. Okay, so it's now taking the PDF and it's pulling it into Textile Pdf Reader. Okay, so let's look at this from a teacher perspective first of all. Okay, and then we'll look at it perhaps from a student perspective as well. Okay, so it's now opening the PDF. It's going to process. It's going to make sure that it is fully accessible, and then it's going to give me all of the super rich tools that I would normally have from Read and Write up in the top right hand side of the screen. So now my PDF is on screen. I have access to all of these tools. So if I need accessibility, of course, I can have access to click to speak, so I can have that read out loud.
In the same journey time.
So I can have that as a student, but I could also have it as a teacher to have that read out loud. But as a teacher, if I just press stop here, I get access to a whole range of other tools. So for example, if I want to enrich this PDF, I could simply use my highlight tools, okay? So I could go and I could say, right, I need to highlight this because I want to draw attention to it. So I could highlight this part as well. I could do that in a slightly different color. If I want to do freehand drawing, and I want to look at the Specimen here. Well, I've done that in black, but I could, of course, change the color. Let's change the color and put it in red, and we'll draw an even worse circle over our Specimen here. But we can highlight and annotate on any part of this PDF. So we can do that, but we can also, for example, leave a pushpin. And a pushpin is a really wonderful thing. I absolutely love pushpin. Pushpin allows me to put a pin at any word point in a document and allows me to type using prediction, using dictation, a note directly within there. So this will give me the capability now of leaving some additional comments or recordings directly for my student. So once I've done that, I will not do much more than some nonsense there, but I have this little pushpin. If my student clicks on it, they have access to richer content. I could provide hyperlink within there. I could provide anything, but I've now been able to take a flat resource and turn it into something completely different. So I have access to freehand tools, I have access to shapes. I also have a typewriter tool for text, and we'll see how we might use that. If you're a student and you have received this document, maybe there's some questions on it, but right here, right now, we've got a typewriter tool, okay? So now we have, he wanted a comparison, okay, so I'm just typing something very simple, but I've been able to click where I wanted. This PDF was not fully accessible beforehand, but I now have the ability with Textile Pdf Reader to complete this, and we'll see how that would work in maybe a little fraction sheet in a second. So let's say, going back to being the teacher, now I've created or extended my resource, highlighted some few things, perhaps typed a few extra notes, added a few comments and push pins to expand certain areas. Now what I can do is I can go directly up to my classroom icon just in the top right of the screen. I can choose class, and I'll say, right, I'm going to send this out to my remote learning class at the minute. Okay, and I actually don't want to create an assignment here. I just want to create material. I just want to give this to students. Perhaps they need it as a answer sheet. Perhaps they need it to highlight specific areas that they should focus on. Perhaps it's a past paper that I've drawn on and completed for them to have a look at. I'm just going to hit go, and I'm going to say background reading. Oh, I'm going to fix the typo. Okay, and now what I'm going to say is remote learning, all students, no topic, and I'm just going to post that. So now students have access to that piece, and it's all being done directly within Google Classroom. And we'll see in a second how exactly we can use that within Google Classroom. But what I want to do first of all is just maybe go back to a different document here, okay? So let's think about how exactly a student might use that tool. So I'm going to go down to something simple here, which is, let's see where we are. Let's go to fractions, okay? So here's a fractions worksheet. Now let's say what we've just done is we have previously assigned this out, as a worksheet that we want students completed. So we would have done that through Read and Write. We've opened it, we've created the classroom assignment, we've shared it out. Now students have this. So what are we asking them to do right now today? Are we asking them to complete this? Are we asking them to print it out and photograph it and return it? Well, if they have Textile Pdf Reader, what they can do now, of course, is this. So what fraction is equivalent to a third? As a student, I'm going to pick up my freehand drawing and I'm going to say, oh, no. So we're going to highlight that this is indeed the right answer. Okay, what is 4/20 in its simplest form? So here's the question. How do we do that within typewriter? Well, think back to EquatIO at the very start and how we did maths. We can do that by opening EquatIO, because EquatIO will let us insert maths in here as well. So I'm going to open up EquatIO. It's popped at the bottom of my screen. I just want to put the answer in there, and I know the answer is 1/5. Okay. Okay, and all I'm going to press is insert maths, and my 1/5 has been created just right at the top of my screen, and I'm just going to move it as my answer directly here. I'm going to tick it. Now what I've been able to do is put rich math directly into this really easily by using a combination of Read and Write and EquatIO. So it's a really wonderful way to provide access to worksheets, because not only can I type if it's an English piece or a history piece or an economics piece, but I can also express maths. So whatever your subject, between Texthelp Pdf Reader and EquatIO, we have the ability to complete a worksheet. And of course, because we've got classroom integration right over here, we can go and we can return that and turn it in directly through Google Classroom. So we've been able to do that. PDF Reader gives us lots and lots of ways to utilize that. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to go back now and I'm going to go to my courses, and I'm going to go directly to maths right here. Okay, so this was some maths that was sent directly to me. I'm going to look at classroom. Okay, and basically what I did with this assignment was I created a PDF resource. I shared it in a normal way within Google Classroom, and now I want to see if my students have actually returned this. Okay, so I'm going to see view assignment. So this is just standard Google Classroom. You'll all know this. We've seen some people haven't turned in their work, other people haven't turned in their work, other people have. So I'm going to pick on Alan here, and this is my normal Google Classroom assignment window, and I'm going to look at Alan's work. Okay, so let's click on Alan's work and let's see how he did in this particular test. You'll be familiar with Google Classroom. It opens up, but the one thing you'll notice is on the top of your screen, you'll see there that the Read and Write Textile PDF toolbar is open, which means now we can see, and I can say I hadn't seen this before the demo today, Alan has really went to town on explaining these answers, so he's definitely going to get extra marks for this. Well done, Alan, if you're listening. But Alan has completed this worksheet and done it incredibly well. So now what I can do, because I have access to all of these tools, I can do this and mark this as part of my standard workflow. So I'll go to freehand drawing. I'll be the teacher, so I will pick my green pen up and I will give him, okay, so I will mark that, okay. I will give him, I will mark that because he showed it. I will give him, and I will assume this is right, and I will mark that. I will give him, and I will mark that too. Okay, so Alan has done incredibly well here. I'm going to go across to the classroom window, and I'm just going to give him a 10 out of 10, and I'm going to tell him it's well done. So the same workflow, but I've had the ability to mark this. If it had a touch screen, it could do it even faster. And if I now press return, Alan's going to get it's 10 out of 10 and a job well done. And he's also going to get access to this PDF with all of the marking and the annotation and the feedback on it. I could have used a Pushpin there to give him additional feedback, but really what does Alan want? Alan wants his mark back, and he's going to get that with the marking or anywhere else that he's done. So I can move on. The next one is just Alison. I'm going to pick up Alison here. I'm going to pick up this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to continue in my green, and I'm going to say Alison did well, although she did it very small. So we might want to mark her down for that, but these are the challenges we face. So we've now got the ability to mark. So we could do this for any PDF within Classroom. So it's a really good tool for that. So that is the short version on Texthelp PDF Reader. So think about how we might use the features you're used to in Read and Write to support students with accessible PDFs, but then also we can use it to enrich current resources. We can also use it to create the new and additional comments within that, to mark and to provide feedback right in the Google Classroom window. It's fully integrated, so we don't have to leave and go out to external windows at all. So let's have a look. I'm going to go back to my Google Classroom here. And what I'm going to do is go to our next product that we're going to look at for remote learning. And that is a product called Read and Write. Sorry, it's not a product called Read and Write. We talk a lot about Read and Write, so I'm talking about it maybe a wee bit too much. It's a product called WriQ. So we're going to jump right in here to this piece, okay? So this was a piece that was sent out. This was a year 11 piece of Mice and Men, year 13 piece of Mice and Men. The student has been asked to create this piece and they've returned it to me as an assignment. So the way I would do that in Google Classroom is create an assignment, tell them what I want, ask them and set the due date. They've returned it as a Google Doc in this instance. So I now have the student's piece here. My challenge, because things are digital now, is that I need to mark it. So this is my challenge. How do I mark it? What we mark it with is a thing called WriQ. So WriQ will allow us to part automate and certainly measure all of the students' progress within this document. So WriQ opens as a Google extension, right-hand side of the screen. When I open it, because I've just opened this document, it's automatically measured my spelling, punctuation, and grammar. It's told me how long it took the student to be on task there. Now, I don't think that student took 11 minutes on task there. That's because I copied and pasted that piece into this document. And it's given me, excuse me, a vocabulary age in here also, and the total word count. So if I've said it has to be a 1500 word piece, then I can get access to that straight away. So that gives me instant SPAG score. That gives me instant ability. It also gives me the ability now to select what age group is that student. I'm going to go for grade 11. I'm going to say that this was, it's actually an English literature piece, but I'm going to say it's an English language piece. This is the rubric or the mark scheme that I've already included. I'm going to continue to that rubric. And now I have access to the rubric and mark scheme that I've already put in. How am I marking them for content, structure, and organization? I don't know, but if I look at the mark scheme, I would say a 4. And written accuracy and vocabulary, I would say definitely a 5 in this case for the student. I'm going to say continue, and I'm going to say great work. Okay, and now I have a summary of exactly how that student has progressed, and I'm going to be able at this stage to press the save button. I can see it's been scored, and I can press insert, and I can insert all of that feedback into the top of the document. Now, we can insert the feedback to the pupil or student in one of two ways. This way, or we can do it in a different way, which is to, when we save over here, it will automatically notify the student of their feedback and give them some feedback on that. So let's just think about what we've done. We've given you in WriQ a really, really easy and fast, efficient way to automatically measure SPAG, spelling, punctuation, and grammar, and then apply a customized rubric or mark scheme that you can set yourself, or you can share and grab from others as well. And we've been able to do that really fast. Think about the volume of digital work that might come in that you need to mark, that's written work. We can do that with WriQ. If I, though, jump back and look at one of our challenges that we looked earlier. So I'm going to go to my home account here, and I'm going to go to what is hopefully that same document. So this same document, okay, this is the student view. So this is me as a student. This is the piece that I've submitted. I happen to check into the piece. And if I check into the piece, I have a different extension. It's still WriQ, it's still installed in Chrome, but this different piece has enabled me through time to see how my typing has gone and to motivate me a wee bit more. So let's look at how that might happen. This is a superb piece. And as I've been typing, my WriQ meter, I've disabled it just for the demo today, guys, but our WriQ meter will have changed. But what I want to do is actually go down and look at the feedback, okay? So I'm going to down and look at the feedback. and it's told me with that little button there that I have some feedback. Now, the reason that it's not splitting it down in the subject area and giving me a word cloud at this stage as a student is because this is just the first piece that I've actually shared. This will start to aggregate and give the student feedback over weeks, months, and years of their writing progress and how well they've written across that term. But what you'll see here is you have feedback available, okay? And I'm clicking view now. Instantly, I have great stuff, A star. I have my rubric score, so I've got 9 out of 20 on this. That's how I marked it as a teacher. I've got access to where I have been in the rubric or mark scheme, but if as a student I want to get better, I can cycle through these and understand how I can improve this per score that you as a teacher has given me. So I've now got all the feedback I need. It's all automatically done when I completed the WriQ measurements previously. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go down here also. I'm going to go down to achievements. And what achievements actually should do is this will give students access to badges that they can work towards in terms of their writing. So we're measuring bursts as we type. So we can here tell them and reward them how that burst number, the ability to write fluently without taking a break, has actually increased. If we have included keywords from different subjects on our bookshelf, we can see directly here. If we have written a set number of words right the way up the millionaire status at the top. And if you want to see what 34,000 words looks like, we'll compare that to an individual book. So what are we trying to do here? What we're trying to do through this is motivate students as they write to write more. When we maximize this, we're giving them quality feedback here to encourage them as they progress. We're setting targets because we're giving them statistics as they go and charting those. And also we're giving them reward here on achievements. So we're giving them multiple areas where hopefully we can encourage them to write more. And what I'm going to show you really quickly here is if we just go down to courses, and we are, I know, tight for time today, but there's a lot to cover in remote learning. So we'll hopefully be here only another sort of 5-10 minutes at the very, very most. I'm going to go down to, as a teacher, my WriQ class. So I'm just going to go here and I'm going to look at a previous assignment that I sent out to my class. So you'll see here that all my class, or well, half of my class, I should say, has returned their content, probably something you're more than familiar with now. But I'm going to go directly here and I'm going to have a look at perhaps Jackie's work here. So I'm going to open Jackie's work. I want to mark Jackie's work. Maybe I'm in a workflow where I just want to mark the whole classroom's work, okay? Now what you see here, I've just opened it within the regular classroom workflow window. And within here, what you'll see now is the WriQ window automatically appears on the right hand side. If I click this button, you'll see here now what it's going to do. It's popping out to the server, it's checking, and it's automatically, without me having to do anything, marked spelling, punctuation, and grammar, giving me an accuracy score of how Jackie's work has been. It's given me the word count, her vocabulary age, and it took her 29 minutes to write this. I can skip the rubric if I want, or if this was, say, your 11 piece that I already created a rubric for, I can continue the rubric. I can mark this in exactly the same way as I did with the previous piece. I can continue. I've got a Reiki score, so I know how well she's writing. I can insert feedback directly in here. If I press the save button, Jackie now has a notification on her desktop from Google Classroom that I will have marked this as soon as I press the return button. But even before that, she will have a notification on her WriQ icon to show her that all of this feedback that I've just created is available. Think how fast that was. Written piece of work, spelling, punctuation, and grammar against the mark scheme. I've done Jackie's. Now I'm just going to press the button. I'm going to move on to Jamie's. The exact same thing is going to happen. WriQ is going to appear here. It's going to automatically do spelling, punctuation, and grammar and give me access to everything I need. But here's something else. We've marked this, but we might want to give Jamie some additional encouragement here on his piece. So I might use the tool that I saw before, which was I might use voice note. Well done, Jamie. I particularly like the pictures that you have included. I couldn't pronounce all of the words. Perhaps you could help me in a voice note back. Okay, and when I insert that, Jamie now has not only the WriQ mark, but also has access to the voice note. So we've used Read&Write to provide rich audio feedback, and we've used WriQ to really quickly mark the piece of work and return the information to them. Now, I'm just going to show you one last thing when I go into this, which is on WriQ. I'm going to go into the WriQ dashboard, just so you're aware of this. I'm going to sign in with Google, okay? And this WriQ dashboard is going to track all of the progress of all of my students. So I'm going to be able to see, as time goes by, exactly how my students are progressing here. Okay, WriQ doesn't want to open for me at this point. So we can directly track there our students' progress. We can see how they're progressing through time. We can get snapshots, and most importantly, we can identify areas that perhaps they need additional supports for as well. But as an overview, looking at your entire class when we're remote learning, we can see in one web page how our students are progressing with their writing. But secondly, we've given ourselves great ways to produce effective feedback, to mark and grade work on a standardized way that's very fast and very efficient. So we're going to jump in now with just over, I suppose, 6 minutes or so left here on the webinar today. We're going to just jump directly into our last product, and it's another literacy product, and this is a product called Fluency Tutor. Now, what Fluency Tutor is going to help us do is help us provide students with text passages, and the students can then read these pieces aloud using the microphone on their device at home. Okay, so this links directly into Google Classroom, and it will import the classes that I've decided to import. So I have all my classes there from Google Classroom. Press a button and it will update those. Okay, I can see at a glance how my classes are progressing. If I didn't have Google Classroom or wasn't using it, I could just manually add students to this. So let's have a look at my classes. I'm going to look at my students at this point. Okay, I'm going to look at individual classes, but what I want to do is I want to look at my recent activity. Okay, actually, let's go to our student class here. Okay, and I'm going to click view students. Okay, so we see only one piece of text has been returned here, so possibly not a great class to look at. So we'll go to our EquatIO class here. Okay, and if I click in this class, I can see at a glance all of my students in the class. I can see how many passages they've read, their total reading time, their average age of reading, their average Lexile level. Any scoring that I have provided is directly here. What's more, I can go to my assessments window and I can see what assessments I have recently sent out. So for example, here is Fiona in my class. Fiona has used the dictionary, the picture dictionary. I can see what words she's used to look up, and she's also used the vocabulary list. I can see here that I'm ready to score Fiona's piece of work. Okay, I could just listen to it here also as well. So if I want to hear Fiona, oh. So I can listen. I'm not sure whether you heard that in the way the microphone's set up, but I can listen to Fiona through this. I can simply reward her with a thumbs up, or I could score the passage. So we'll come back to that in a little second, okay? And we'll score Fiona's passage. What I want to see is the easy thing. And the easy thing is this. I've just went to fluency.texthelp. I've signed in. I just want to share a reading passage with my students. I can press share passage, okay? And I can pick from over 500 different leveled passages that are included directly within here, okay? So if I have a look here, I can go through these passages, I can filter, I can search, but I'm going to jump into, for example, this piece here. So I can see that this is at a high Lexile level, it has a higher word count, and I can input that. I'm maybe going to see this one here, something a little bit simpler. Amelia's bad day. Okay, so now I've picked something that I'm happy with the Lexile level of. This is the passage that I want my students to read aloud. These are my comprehension questions, which are preset. And all I have to do at this stage is share that with my student. Okay, so I'm going to share that, and I'm going to share that with my Fluency Tutor class. And I'm going to select a student. So at this point, I'm just going to select me so you can see this easily. Okay, and I'm going to create assignment. So automatically it's linked into Google Classroom. It has generated the link to this content. It has emailed my student with that link, and it's asked them to read that aloud. And in just 1 second, I'll show you exactly how we do that. So I've picked that and I've created that assignment and sent it in just a couple of clicks. But also, if I don't want to use the generated content, I can just press create content, okay? And the create content is fabulous, because with the create content, I can go along to, for example, let's go back to my Specimen page here, and I can go up to my create content page. I just need to click my Google extension. It's automatically pulled all of that content as a reading passage directly into this piece. It's given it a title. It's telling me exactly what I can use. I can set the language. I can set the voice. I can do a preview of that. But what I want to do is very quickly just share this directly with Google Classroom. So I'm going to press Google Classroom. I'm going to select my class. I'm going to go down to Fluency Tutor. I'm going to go to my student. In this case, I could select all. I'm just going to select me just to keep it neat. And I'm going to create assignment. Okay, so I'm going to create assignment here. It's created the assignment from the web page. It's cited the source. It's added the imagery. It's sent it directly out to the student. So let's just see what a student eye view looks like. We've done that really easily. We're asking our students to practice reading aloud, and in the first case, answer questions with this as well. So I'm going to go down to my home account right here. I'm going to go along to my Fluency Tutor. Okay. Okay, and I can see here that right now, okay, there's some new passages going to come to me directly. Okay, so recent activity, we will see. Okay, let's go to my Google Classroom. Okay, so I'm going to go right here in my Google Classroom where I would have got my notification from. And I'm going to go to Fluency Tutor, and hopefully it's totally updated this. So there we go. There's the new astronauts page. There's Amelia's bad day. So we'll do Amelia's bad day because it's nice and short. Okay. So here's Amelia's bad day. A girl has a bad day. Students already know that this link will ask me to read it. So I'm going to click the link, and it's going to take me to the actual passage that we created. And remember, just 3 clicks, we've created that. I could have this read out loud. Okay, so I could simply play this.
Amelia was having a bad day.
So I can model it. I can change the voice, of course, as well. If I was stuck here and I didn't know what this particular word was, I've got access to some additional help. I have access to picture dictionary here also, which can give me a visual representation, and I know what level it's at. Let's just very quickly, I'm going to say at this stage, okay, back to reading, I'm going to say record. Okay, I'm going to allow the microphone. Remember, I'm a student at this stage. This is the passage that you've sent. Amelia was having a bad day. It started when she looked at the alarm clock and found out that it was 10 minutes slow. Okay, so I'm going to presume that I have shared all of that. And then when I'm ready, I can press I'm finished. And as a teacher, you'll get a notification, and you'll also get the reading of that as well. So let's just jump back. I'm on final step here. Let's go back here and let's go to assessments. Okay. And let's just see if anything new has come back to me. Okay, and there you go. Patrick has read Amelia's bad day. I can listen to this just by pressing play. Amelia was having a bad. Okay, I can also score it. I can give Patrick a thumbs up, but if I wanted to score it, I can listen to this in real time. Amelia was having a bad day. And I can say this was a mispronunciation. Okay, and when I'm back, I can press save scoring, and I can send that directly back to the student. The student will get a view of how they have performed. An individual comment will come back to them, and they'll get the scoring, and they'll also know how they can improve. And students have the ability to do that and get some good feedback. So last feature on this, if I go into my student dashboard, excuse me, so a student view, remember what a student can also do at this stage is a student can use this extension to create their own reading. So if a student finds something that they're really interested in, we could encourage and should encourage students directly to record their own piece. So if I went back into, for example, the astronaut piece that we saw earlier and simply click this, the student can create their own reading piece and submit it directly back to you as a teacher. You'll get notified, it'll be in your dashboard, and you'll see it directly there within your screen, and you'll get the notifications live on your Fluency Tutor dashboard and through your Chrome browser. So this is a great way to create content, to provide content, to assess content, and to actively motivate students and involve them by helping them read aloud. So as we wrap up, and we're done as of today, I'll not go back to present this, but just wanted to fill you in a couple of last things. What we saw there today, reading, writing, and supports within Google Assignments, but distributed in any way. PDF annotation and sharing, think how important that is for creation, for assessment, for feedback. Maths resource creation with EquatIO really easily, sharing and feedback there. Marking assessment and feedback for written work through WriQ, fabulous tool to automatically support assessment of writing and allow us to monitor that. And also, obviously, our last tool was Fluency Tutor, remotely help students practice reading aloud. Send them a passage, help them to record it using their microphone, and in one button send it back to you for assessment. To help going forward with remote learning, we've put together a number of resources. So you're going to get access after today. If you stick around to the end of the webinar, you get access to our Wakelet, which is set up for teachers, for students, and for parents. So we've given a list of resources for students that they can access to help them download the tools and be familiar with the tools, and we've done all that in a student's voice so they can hear student to student how best it can help them, rather than simply a Texthelp member of staff or teacher telling them. For parents as well, what is the tool, how can they install it, how can they get it for their children? We'll get that out to you today. There's lots of stuff on there. There's help specifically on Google Classroom. There's lots of videos for remote learning and also for installation, because we want to make sure students are up and running as fast as possible. Moving forward, our customer care team will be able to help you with lots more stuff that you can see there on screen, pupil skills, more webinars, activities, and guides. But as we wrap up, I just want to leave you with these two links on page. If you want to read more and get some additional help from us, please go to text.help/remote-learning, or of course email the entire education team here at Texthelp UK and EMEA, education@texthelp.com. We will be more than happy to get you everything that you need to get up and running with your students, to give you the tools that they need to access through this very difficult time of school closures, and get you all of the resources that can support you going forward. So please, please, please reach out. I can help directly at texthelp.com or on Twitter, but I'll just pop back to these. Please email us education@texthelp.com. We will help you, and also text.help/remote-learning. Fill in the form, tell us what you need, and we'll help you out. And that just leaves me to thank you for being here today. There were many, many, many hundreds of people on this call and a huge volume of questions that came in. Unfortunately, we're not going to have time to go through every one of those. I will endeavor this evening to get through as many of those questions as possible and to get them addressed and answered for you. In the meantime, take care of yourself, stay inside. Hopefully those of you that are in the UK and in Europe are supporting our NHS with the NHS clap tonight. And I really want to wish you and your family all the very best in both today and for the next few weeks and months that lie ahead of us. Remote learning is quite obviously here to stay. We're here to help. Don't be afraid to reach out, and we'll do everything that we possibly can. And I do hope today was of use. Thank you, and all the very best for the rest of the evening.